Assalamualaikum. My name is Azuriani binti Khairul Hisham and my partner is Fatin Nazira binti Sapwani. Here is our project. The name of our project is Space Management System. My partner, Fatin Nazira, will introduce more detail about our system.
There are problems that happen in our world, which is pandemic COVID-19. So, space management system will focus on the problem that faced by community in Polytechnic Kuching. In the current situation, we are obliged to maintain a distance from each other at least 1 meter from others to prevent a spread of COVID-19. The concept of our project is to implement a system such as limiting visitors to entering the premise. To solve the problem, the system will identify the availability of visitors who can enter the premise based on the area of the premise. This system will track how many visitors have entered the premise and it will display the current amount of visitors at the doorstep of the premise. When the number of visitors has reached its limit, the microcontroller on the buzzer will emit a sound. A visitor cannot enter the premise until there are other visitors who leave the premise. The objective of this project is to identify the area of a premise to limit the number of visitors entering the premise at one time in the premise area. We have identified the area of a premise by manually calculating the area of the premise to find out how many visitors can enter the premise at one time. Objective number 2 is to provide a number of visitors who are in the premise at a certain time based on the area of the premise. Space management system was implemented to display the number of visitors who have entered the premises. This system will track how many visitors have entered the premise and it will display the current amount of visitors at the doorstep of the premises. Objective number 3 is to provide an alarm to prevent visitors from over-entering the premise at one time. By placing an alarm on this system, the employees will be more aware if there are visitors who are enter the premise even though they have reached the set limit.
The owner of the premise can set a limitation and the number of the limitation will display on the screen at the front door of your premises. When the number exceeds the set limit, the alarm will emit a sound to give a warning to the visitor, and one of the visitors in the premise must exit from the premise to stop the alarm from ringing. The reason we choose this system because we have seen many premises still using the manual way to count the amount of the visitor. For example, the maximum number of people to come in one time is 30% only. So the employee need to give each one of the visitor the card number, and before the visitor leaving the premise, they need to return the card number to the employee. Why do I suggest this system? It is because it's only using the low cost. As you can see here, we're using the 16:2 LCD display, the IR sensor for the front door and the back door, and then at the back of the LCD display we're using the I2C, and then the buzzer here, Arduino, breadboard, and LED light in here. Okay, and a few jumper wires. So it also can be implemented anyway, and it saves time and save the energy of the employee, and the employee doesn't need to give card number to each one of the visitor. For the security in the system, And here, the buzzer will emit a sound when visitor over entering in the premise. This buzzer will alert the visitor for not over entering in the premise. To change this IR sensor, it is because this IR sensor will keep counting if the person stands for a long time in front of the IR sensor. I will show it to you. I will put my hand in front of the IR sensor. So, for the better system, we need to change this IR sensor. That's all from me, Azuriani binti Karul Hisham, and my partner Fatin Nazira binti Sapwani. Assalamualaikum.